John James Preston, famously known as Mr. Big, is one of television's most compelling and controversial romantic leads, and a central figure in HBO's iconic series, Sex and the City. While much of the discourse around the show naturally centers on its four central female leads, the men of the series have often been relegated to secondary roles, viewed primarily through their relationships with these women. While other male characters like Aiden and Steve deserve their own deep dives, which I may explore later, today I'm focusing on Sex and the City's original and most enduring male lead, Mr. Big. Portrayed by Chris Noth, Mr. Big is introduced as the charismatic businessman and financier who becomes Carrie Bradshaw's on and off love interest and eventual husband. His legacy spans 6 TV seasons, 2 feature films, and the 2021 reboot and Just Like That. This video will be focusing on the TV series.
Let's go! Hey, hurry! We're gonna miss the plane.
Wait, put them down a second. Just put them down.
This analysis critically examines Mr. Big's character, his motivations, his appeal, and why his portrayal carries broader cultural implications. By unpacking Mr. Big, we can better understand how his character shaped expectations around romantic relationships, influenced women's ideas of ideal partners, and framed masculinity for men. At the center of this exploration is his tumultuous relationship with Carrie Bradshaw, the highs, heartbreaks, and pivotal moments that defined their connection. Through their story, we'll explore key themes Mr. Big represents: fear of commitment, emotional guardedness, and the role of social status in shaping identity. By turning the spotlight onto a major male figure of Sex and the City, I hope to offer a fresh perspective often overlooked in discussions about the show: the importance of first impressions. When I was a child, my mother, understandably, never allowed me to watch Sex and the City. Without a TV in my room and no phone of my own, 8-year-old me had little choice but to listen. But despite not having access to the series, I had my own perception of who Mr. Big was. He was wealthy, desirable, and engaged in a complicated push-and-pull relationship with Carrie Bradshaw.
Okay, 2 out of 3.
You want to play a second game, huh?
As I grew older and gained the ability to access different types of media, I began secretly binging adult cartoons like Family Guy, Futurama, and Ren and Stimpy, shows that, in retrospect, likely shaped my early worldview more significantly than I realized. But interestingly, it wasn't until I was preparing to move to New York City as an adult that I finally sat down and watched the acclaimed series about 4 women's lives that I had heard so much about. Immediately, I understood its enduring popularity. Despite being outdated in areas, notably the infamous episode where Samantha dates a black man, one of the worst episodes of TV I've ever seen. The writing remained poignant, witty, and deeply relatable, yet as an adult, I couldn't help but wonder, what was it about Mr. Big that made him so alluring to women decades past? To me, he seemed emotionally stunted, a grown man with communication skills scarcely better than my pet cat. But perhaps this was merely my perspective from atop my ivory tower, comfortably situated in my late 20s and past the era of my life where I would get lured in by someone like Mr. Big. Portrayed as the closest thing the show has to a Prince Charming, in reality, Mr. Big is far from a fairy tale hero. He's undeniably charming and affluent, but he's also elusive, commitment-averse, and frustratingly unpredictable to the women whose lives he intersects with. Yet even as a child, I had already internalized that this was the kind of man women desired. I wondered how this narrative of an emotionally unavailable yet desirable man shaped my early understanding of romantic relationships. Carrie herself mused whether Mr. Big had some kind of radar alerting him whenever she was happy, allowing him to swoop in and all over it. That line struck me deeply, resonating strongly with my own early 20s on and off again romantic experience. Just when I thought I'd finally moved on, he would send a text, and months later, during another off period, and after gathering the courage to hit the block button, an email would appear. And I know I'm not alone in experiencing that for myself. Why did Mr. Big achieve this lasting cultural resonance, and does that provide insight into the construction of romantic ideals and what is considered desirable masculinity? I want to unpack these ideas, starting with how Big's first impressions helped solidify him into enduring cultural mythology. What's in a name? The power of big. As a wealthy man in his 40s, Mr. Big embodies the successful independent bachelor lifestyle associated with New York City's elite. From the moment we first hear his nickname Mr. Big, it's clear that he's someone important, magnetic, and impossible to ignore. Originally coined by Sex and the City author Candace Bushnell, the nickname was inspired by her real-life ex-boyfriend, publishing executive Ron Galati. Bushnell described Galati as possessing an outsized presence. He was one of those New York guys with a big personality. You notice him the moment he enters the room. I called him Mr. Big because he was like a big man on campus. Having recently moved to New York myself, I have gained a deeper appreciation of the culture surrounding the city's social scene. The nickname Mr. Big directly evokes masculinity, wealth, and power, and presents him as an alpha figure who is thriving among the ambitious go-getters in a city defined by status and success.
It was Mr. Big, major tycoon, major dreamboat, and majorly out of my league.
For several seasons, he is known only as Big, a deliberate choice by executive producer Michael Patrick King to maintain an air of mystery, keeping him perpetually slightly out of reach. This intentional ambiguity, combined with the show's refusal to fully define his profession, enhances his mystery. In contrast, Big's use of the childlike nickname Kid when referring to Carrie subtly underscores their power imbalance, emphasizing his seniority in age, status, and authority. The use of infantilizing nicknames like Kid often serve as psychological tools employed to assert dominance and control. They diminish one's maturity, capabilities, or accomplishments, reinforcing an uneven power dynamic and creating a false sense of dependency. Calling an adult woman Kid portrays her as naive or less capable, intentionally undermining her autonomy and confidence, a tactic frequently rooted in insecurity and used to maintain superiority in relationships where power balance might otherwise shift. In Mr. Big's case, the power imbalance was tangible and substantial.
I'm worth nothing.
He genuinely possessed greater wealth, status, and influence compared to Carrie, who rarely challenged this inequality throughout the show. His subtle dismissals of her career as cute further reinforced this disparity.
I started reading your column after we met.
You did?
Yeah. Cute.
Cute.
Well, yeah, cute.
Women might internalize the notion that emotional inequity or imbalance is acceptable or even desirable, while men might absorb the troubling message that dominance, control, or emotional withholding equates to attractiveness and power. These portrayals echo aspects of red pill ideology, a belief system that positions relationships as inherently transactional and competitive, suggesting that men should assert dominance and detach emotionally to maintain attraction and power. Mr. Big's real name, John James Preston, is only revealed in the series finale, highlighting the universality of his character. Even an ordinary John can embody the persona of a Mr. Big. Tailored power. From his very first appearance, Mr. Big's wardrobe skillfully conveys the identity he wishes to outwardly portray.
I rented a villa there one summer with the ex. It was incredible.
Tailored suits, crisp shirts, and silk ties form the uniform of a powerful Manhattan businessman. Whether he's escorting Carrie to an upscale dinner or relaxing at home with a scotch and cigar, Big remains flawlessly attired, reinforcing his authoritative presence. Carrie's later boyfriend, Aidan Shaw, presented a notably different aesthetic, favoring a casual bohemian style characterized by leather jackets, denim shirts, boots, and sleeveless flannels, accessorized with turquoise jewelry. This relaxed, earthy style communicates Aidan's approachable, free-spirited nature, aligning with his job as a furniture craftsman rather than a Wall Street executive. The image of a man in a tailored suit symbolizes not just wealth, but stability, authority, and success. These visual cues were hammered into my psyche by the media and a reason why Mr. Big remained memorable throughout the years. Consider figures like James Bond, Don Draper from Mad Men, and even Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother. For these men, their suits served both as armor and as a symbol of status. Looking at today's landscape with the dot-com boom and the rise of tech entrepreneurship, perceptions of what successful attire looks like have evolved. It's now common for wealthy tech founders to adopt casual attire, think t-shirts, hoodies, and flip-flops. Yet there's often still a lingering doubt, can someone in flip-flops really be successful? So the wealth-signaling style of the traditional Wall Street power suit continues to hold strong. The relationships of Big. First impressions aside, let's delve into Big's relationships throughout the series. From the outset, Big's charm and confidence are immediately clear. He's suave, witty, and undeniably magnetic, the quintessential tall, dark, and handsome figure who effortlessly commands attention. This self-assurance is showcased in his very first interaction with Carrie, where his casual confidence and playful banter immediately draw her and viewers in. However, Big's frequent emotional unavailability overshadows his and Carrie's interactions. He consistently struggles to communicate his true feelings, often retreating or deflecting with humor.
What do you think?
Look, I do want to get married someday. I mean, maybe not today, but I don't want to... I can't date somebody that won't. You know, what's the point?
Definitely too much salt.
Commitment issues define much of Mr. Big's character. His fear of commitment is complex, rooted in fears of loss, making the wrong choice, and emotional vulnerability. From his earliest interactions, Big is cautious about deepening his relationship with Carrie, often keeping her separate from integral parts of his life like family and home. Once dating, Big introduces Carrie to his mother as a friend.
Mother, this is my friend Carrie.
I searched her face, looking for the light of recognition. But there was nothing.
And refuses to allow Carrie to keep her personal items at his apartment.
Hey, what's this?
Oh, just a few things you left at my place.
These refusals put his emotional unavailability on full display. By denying Carrie space in his home, Big maintains control and emotional distance, reinforcing a boundary that keeps their relationship superficial. It illustrates Big's unwillingness to commit fully, reflecting deeper issues of intimacy and highlighting the power imbalance in their relationship.
What is the ideal living situation for two people in a relationship?
Exactly what we have.
And what is that?
I have my place, you have yours. We're together when we want to be, and we're apart when we want to be.
We consistently witness significant communication issues that greatly intensify Carrie's insecurities. Big frequently withholds clarity or deliberately remains ambiguous, leaving Carrie in a perpetual state of uncertainty and anxiety. We see this in a massive way when Big casually mentions that he is relocating to Paris for work, providing Carrie, his exclusive partner at the time, minimal notice and leaving her shocked and reeling.
I may have to move to Paris for work, just for a while.
For how long a while?
I don't know, 7 months, maybe a year. Nothing's definite.
Wait.
Suddenly, the relationship she'd fought so desperately to secure was thrown into a state of uncertainty. Big offers no words of comfort, reassurance, or plans for maintaining their connection. Big's communication pattern aligns closely with an avoidant attachment style, characterized by emotional distancing, ambiguity, and discomfort with vulnerability. Avoidant individuals often minimize emotional intimacy as a protective mechanism against perceived threats to their independence and autonomy. They frequently withhold clear communication as clarity might imply commitment, expectation, all things they're inclined to avoid. In doing so, the avoidant partner maintains control, leaving their partner to bear the emotional labor of seeking reassurance and closeness. Carrie, caught in a cycle of anxiety and longing, rarely asserts boundaries or demands change from Big. Instead, she typically resorts to indirect or passive-aggressive behaviors, internalizing her frustrations rather than confronting him directly. For example, after learning about Big's impending move to Paris rather than clearly expressing her needs or expectations, she quietly spirals into insecurity and attempts to test his commitment, hoping he'll offer reassurance on his own.
I don't want you to uproot your life and expect anything.
I am such an idiot!
This perpetuates a harmful stereotype that suggests men who conceal their thoughts and emotions are somehow more desirable or mysterious. In reality, only someone exhibiting trauma, sociopathic tendencies, or a person who genuinely does not care for the relationship would treat their partner in such a dismissive and detached manner. It means we as women must simply interpret the meaning of men's words, fighting through anxiety and insecurity on our own, rather than expecting clear communication and reassurance as standard behavior. The series does provide context for Big's reluctance toward commitment. He was previously divorced before meeting Carrie. Big candidly admits to Carrie that he just can't do it regarding marriage. However, his subsequent rapid marriage to his second wife, Natasha, introduces a notable contradiction to the words he says to Carrie. Natasha is Big's only other significant romantic relationship within the series, but rather than depicting any level of genuine intimacy or emotional depth, their marriage underscores Big's character flaws, particularly his superficiality and tendency to prioritize appearances and status over authentic connection. With Natasha, Big maintains cordial but distant interactions even before his affair with Carrie begins. Their on-screen conversations rarely extend beyond superficial small talk. Big's behavior is of someone whose actions consistently contradict his stated feelings and desires. Despite professing emotional depth and connection with Carrie, Big repeatedly prioritizes social status and outward appearances. Natasha is intelligent, mature, and kind. Desirable traits for any partner, however, Big's attraction to her is primarily rooted in the carefully curated image she presents, one aligned perfectly with his public persona. Younger and conventionally beautiful, Natasha embodies grace, poise, and sophistication, seamlessly fitting into the elite circles Big frequents. Her refined, elegant style reinforces the polished image he wishes to project. She maintains a calm, collected exterior, rarely showing emotional extremes publicly, which remains even after discovering Big's infidelity and confronting Carrie. Big's superficial prioritization becomes clearer when we consider his reluctance to introduce Carrie to his mother as anything more than a friend. Openly announcing a relationship with a sex columnist, whose career he once dismissively refers to as merely cute, doesn't align with the carefully constructed image. Yet when he marries Natasha, who he considers on his level from a status viewpoint, he has no hesitation about publicizing their marriage prominently in the newspaper. Unlike Natasha, Carrie is outspoken, older, expressive, and flamboyantly stylish, represents qualities Big clearly privately finds attractive, yet publicly views as disruptive to his cultivated image. His decision to marry Natasha ultimately reflects his underlying motivation, prioritizing social status over authentic emotional connection. In my view, Carrie only becomes truly desirable to Big when she is no longer within his reach. When Carrie appears to have emotionally moved on and starts dating someone else, it's a sharp knife cutting into Big's pride. Unhappy in his own marriage, Big can't tolerate the thought of his ex finding happiness with another man. His attraction to Carrie is strongest when she is unavailable, highlighting a deeper psychological pattern.
Carrie, wait!
The allure of the chase, the thrill of overcoming a challenge, and the ego validation that comes from regaining someone's attention.
I made a mistake.
You.
I love you.
This dynamic follows almost the entire course of their relationship, with most oftentimes Carrie being the one doing the chasing. Chasing someone unavailable can produce an adrenaline-driven excitement, fueling intense anxiety and emotional highs and lows. The small moments of attention received can feel incredibly gratifying, something Carrie likely experienced when she became the object of Big's pursuit. However, this validation rarely lasts. The avoidant partner reverts to their detached ways because, in reality, their interest was never genuine.
Why are you acting so nuts?
Well, maybe I'm not perfect. Maybe I don't fit into your perfect, life with your perfect apartment and your perfect pay-per-view fight. Maybe I should leave.
I stood there and waited for the obligatory, "He's coming to stop me," 10 seconds. He didn't.
It was merely about ensuring they could maintain control, reaffirm their desirability, and provide ego boost, and not indicative of genuine love or connection. In my experience, relationships based on this push and pull pattern rarely succeed. While it may be possible for partners to address these issues and move toward healthier patterns and a secure attachment style, that outcome is rare at best. It raises the crucial question, is this worth the emotional effort? Constant anxiety and emotional turmoil drain energy that could otherwise be directed toward genuine personal growth and building a stable, supportive relationship with someone who desires such a partnership. True and lasting love and companionship does not thrive on uncertainty or emotional chaos, but instead flourish through mutual comfort, consistent support, and a shared commitment to improving each other's lives. Relationships centered around chasing or being chased rarely provide space for meaningful self-improvement or authentic intimacy, as continuous emotional instability prevents the development of deep emotional bonds and growth. All the energy Carrie invested in pursuing and being pursued by Mr. Big, agonizing over the meaning of his words, obsessively replaying voicemails, and endlessly dissecting their conversations with her friends, could have been channeled into pursuits with far greater value.
There were so many questions I wanted him to answer but would not ask. Not tonight, at least. No, tonight, I would ask Miranda.
He said, "I miss you, baby." Do you think that was meant to be some kind of coded mea culpa?
Time is finite, and prioritizing how we use it matters deeply. Investing in relationships with family and friends who form our support systems, nurturing our physical health and emotional well-being, expanding our knowledge, or pursuing fulfillment through our careers would have been a more meaningful use of valuable time and mental resources. While Carrie and Natasha are the focus of Big's romantic narrative, examining how he interacts with others in the series also sheds light on his character. Unlike the women of Sex and the City who share tight-knit friendships, Mr. Big is rarely shown having close friends or confidants. He even is reluctant to become closer with Carrie's friends even after she makes it known that she would like them to get to know one another.
But my friends are expecting you.
Yeah, I know, but they're your friends, and they'll be fine with just you. Is it okay?
Sure.
One notable exception is his friend Jack, who appears briefly in the series after going through a divorce. However, beyond this brief storyline, Big's social world remains largely solitary. He navigates a landscape of business acquaintances and social events, but seldom forms deeper emotional connections. A memorable example of this occurs when Big neglects to introduce Carrie to a friend during a chance encounter, simply because he has forgotten the man's name.
Who is that?
Oh, it's just some guy skied with an aspen.
I didn't understand. Had I suddenly become the invisible woman?
And, the guy we met in the street, I couldn't remember his name, which possibly means I have Alzheimer's, so that's what that was about.
This moment illustrates the superficial nature of many of his interactions. This lack of portrayed close male friendships may have reinforced to viewers certain stereotypes about male emotional isolation, especially among successful career-driven men. Big's solitary presence subtly communicated the idea that wealth and status come at the expense of meaningful emotional connections. However, in reality, a man maintaining healthy friendships is genuinely desirable and beneficial. Strong friendships signal emotional maturity and empathy, qualities crucial for sustaining healthy, balanced relationships. Friendships provide essential emotional support, create opportunities for personal growth, and reflect positively on an individual's overall character and emotional intelligence. A man who maintains deep, emotionally rich friendships with other men, and I don't mean casual acquaintances, but meaningful relationships, often demonstrates stronger communication skills, greater loyalty, and emotional openness, making him a more dependable partner. The quality and depth of someone's friendships typically reflect their own character. Higher quality friendships often indicate a higher quality individual, as our closest friends frequently hold us accountable, challenge us to grow, and inspire us towards becoming better versions of ourselves. Mr. Big versus Mr. Shaw. Aidan Shaw serves as the most significant foil to Mr. Big in Sex and the City, offering Carrie an entirely different romantic path. Where Big is cosmopolitan, emotionally guarded, and somewhat unpredictable, Aidan is grounded, open-hearted, and reliable. From his introduction in Season 3, Aidan immediately stands out as the anti-Big, attentive, straightforward about his feelings, and comfortable with commitment. One of the clearest differences between Aidan and Big is emotional availability. Aidan readily expresses his love for Carrie without hesitation or games. He invites her fully into his life, introducing her to his dog Pete and even sharing his countryside cabin with her. On the other hand, Big keeps Carrie guessing, integrating her into his life only on his terms and timeline. Aidan's openness makes Big's emotional distance even more apparent. Moreover, Aidan and Big embody two distinct portrayals of masculinity. Big represents the traditional alpha male, wealthy, assertive, emotionally distant. In contrast, Aidan's masculinity is modern, emotionally expressive, nurturing, supportive, and openly communicative. I believe the modern woman increasingly values Aidan's version of masculinity far more than in decades past, reflecting a societal shift. As women's roles in society continue to evolve, there's greater appreciation for partners who can authentically communicate and share emotional labor. Today, traits like empathy, openness, and willingness to engage in meaningful emotional conversations are no longer widely seen as weaknesses but as strengths, particularly among women in liberal, progressive communities. It's important to recognize that this shift is not universal. Traditional ideals of masculinity still hold considerable appeal across many cultures, conservative communities, and ideologies where assertiveness, emotional stoicism, and traditional gender roles continue to be valued. While I compare Aiden and Big, I find the critical similarity between them is their ability to financially provide. Both men can comfortably support their partners and future families if they wish to have children, fulfilling the fundamental male societal expectation of financial stability. So it raises the question, which type of financial provider should we as women prefer? The inaccessible man whose wealth comes paired with dominance, control, and uncertainty?
I felt like a fool. I had gone so far out on a limb with my feelings that I didn't realize I was standing out there alone.
Or the supportive and communicative partner who offers both financial stability and emotional security? To me, the answer seems obvious and might explain why our collective viewpoint has shifted over time, increasingly recognizing Aiden rather than Big as the healthier, more fulfilling partner in Carrie's life. Letting go of Big. Mr. Big might be one of HBO's most iconic characters, but he's far from being completely unique in his characterization of a male figure. He's part of a long tradition in pop culture of the bad boy held up as a romantic ideal. From classic literature's Heathcliff and Mr. Rochester to TV's Don Draper and Chuck Bass, the trope remains consistent. Masculinity is portrayed as tough, guarded, and often toxic, while women are depicted as responsible for breaking down these emotional walls no matter the level of effort required and how little the reward, at least on an emotional level, appears to be. For women, watching these female leads repeatedly forgive and return to emotionally unavailable or dishonest partners normalizes harmful relationship dynamics. It reinforces the damaging belief that emotional neglect, dishonesty, or even abuse are inevitable parts of a passionate love story, that patience, understanding, and love alone can transform a toxic partner. By romanticizing these relationships, the media encourages women to tolerate harmful behaviors. For men, characters like Big, Don, and Chuck set problematic standards of masculinity. They imply that emotional distance, control, and withholding affection are attractive qualities.
That became the first night I wanted to tell Big, I hate you.
This portrayal contributes to confusion and frustration in dating, with some men believing they need to adopt a detached, tough persona to attract partners. It can also lead to unhealthy attitudes, suggesting that poor behavior will be forgiven if followed by gestures of affection and apologies. Even strong and independent women often prioritize relationships above their own needs, unintentionally reinforcing outdated expectations. Today, this expectation has intensified, as many women are now expected not only to manage emotional labor within relationships, but also to work in demanding careers and take primary responsibility for childcare and household duties. This cumulative burden of professional, emotional, and domestic labor often leaves women feeling overwhelmed and undervalued. Carrie choosing Big over Aiden, the emotionally available and supportive partner, illustrates how these narratives position excitement and drama above stability and emotional fulfillment. Breaking this cycle means redefining attraction, valuing consistency, kindness, and open communication as signs of strength. It means understanding that stable, respectful relationships are more fulfilling than turbulent ones. For women, it involves recognizing that true love doesn't demand constant emotional turmoil. For men, it means embracing vulnerability and emotional honesty without fear of appearing weak to their partner. The cultural conversation around relationships is evolving. Newer media increasingly features men who are compelling without demeaning their partners or employing hot and cold tactics. Audiences today are quicker to call out toxic behavior. Understanding media portrayals, such as Big's, helps viewers critically view these narratives and hopefully avoid them in their personal lives. My younger self might have understood the appeal of Mr. Big, but today I'd choose an Aiden 10 times out of 10.